Hey, welcome back to our program. We have a very good featured guest today. I don't know if you are aware of Reiki.
Oh, yeah.
Reiki is where you're sort of an antenna that brings in energy and helps other
Right.
individuals.
You channel energy into someone else's
Yeah.
body or light body, or for healing and relief of pain and different things.
And today we have a guest that recognizes not only that energy, but a lot of other kinds of energy. And she's been involved for 20 years in working on the spiritual realms, on helping other individuals. She's been a motivational coach, an individual that is an author, soon to have a book. She works with individuals on a one-to-one, on a group basis. And it's our pleasure to welcome Dee Taylor-Mason. She's from England. And I believe it's from Christchurch near Dorset?
Well, Dorset, I think, would be the state, right? Or
That's right.
county.
County. But it is our pleasure to welcome Dee. We've been looking forward to meeting with Dee and talking. So welcome, Dee.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and it's lovely to meet you guys. And Patrick, I've listened to your previous interviews, and you've had some amazing guests on,
Including you.
bless you.
I know that you have been involved. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dee.
Well, my work initially started with healing. I got involved in healing, and within that 2 years of practice, I also had the start of channeling. Channeling came through, and first it was a voice in my head just saying, speak, this kind of thing, and it was quite alarming to somebody who hadn't been used to that before. So that's how I started.
Now, is that something that you intended to do, or did it just happen?
Well, that just happened. I believe sometimes it's part of our makeup and mission. This has definitely been over the years.
Okay.
Part of who I am now. I do believe everybody can channel, but I believe that mine was kind of pushed upon me. I would never have gone looking for it, to be honest. And so then I trained in other modalities. I changed in healing. Then Shiatsu was one of my healing practices. From there, I got really interested in the mind and started to look.
Dee, what you mentioned Shiatsu?
Shiatsu.
Shiatsu? What is that?
That's a Chinese-Japanese therapy with you're working with the meridians and the acupressure points of the body. And for the form that I used, it was Tien Shen Shiatsu, and it would involve the patient laying on a bed, and then you would work around the body, unblocking the meridian points. Very, very efficient, effective.
So how long have you been involved in that venue?
That was approximately 14 years. I had been doing that, and but as with any pathway that people are on, you're often guided to be doing something else. And so the next something else for me was NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, reprogramming. And I went to train with that, which also involved hypnotherapy. And again, synchronicities work out. I met somebody who was involved in thought field therapy. Again, I fully understood this one because it was working on the meridians again. So by just tapping on a few points of the body, you can alleviate things like anxiety and many other things. So it was quite an interesting little module I'd put together, connected, of course, with the healing, which I do automatically. So these are the three things that I've been using. And in between all of that, I would occasionally get channelings. I would meet regularly with a couple of colleagues, friends, and the collective energy is very useful to bring in and ground the energies for channeling. So we've had some fun with some of the guides coming in with various messages.
So you had mentioned meridians. Is that the same as chakra fields, or is it a different kind of look at the physical body?
Yes, it's a different one. It's the meridian points are not the chakras, although when you clear the meridian points, they can have an effect on the chakra points.
I see.
So they all work together.
And so by tapping into some of those key points on the meridian, it helps the flow of energy?
Yes, most definitely. And basically that's what healing is about. It's to get the flow of energy flowing and to unblock anything that may be blocked, whether that's on the physical, where the mental one comes in. Removing the mental blocks is looking at belief systems within my other therapies.
I see. And
I would imagine acupuncture is sort of the same thing.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the Shiatsu is more of kind of a soft acupuncture. You don't poke needles, you're just pressing.
Yes, use fingers. And because of my healing, I couldn't use a very strong pressure because your client would feel that. I have to really gauge how much pressure I can press on there. I've had acupuncture myself, and it works perfectly. I really like it as a therapy. So it is, yes, you're right, very similar to the acupuncture.
now, do you do the tapping, or do you teach the individuals to tap?
I teach the individual. Yeah, the whole thing about what I like to do is give people the tools to actually do this for themselves. So I start off by showing them where the points are, how to do that, and always give them a sheet to take home, and if they need any help they can give me a ring. But I believe especially that one, it's just so simple. Children can use it also.
I think it'd be better for me to tap myself because I think it would be like annoying for somebody else to be like poking at you.
Quit poking me.
I think you gave Patrick a shock there, Mike.
So on your face, where would be a point that you might be able to tap that relieves or helps with
Anxiety.
Right, shall I run through that for you?
Sure, that'd be
Right,
great.
I'll just slip my glasses off because the first point is kind of important. On the eyebrow, just at the edge of the eyebrow, just above the eyebrow, you would tap, thinking of your anxiety, and you would tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Under the eye, very gently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then under the arm, about 4 inches below the armpit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then to finish up with that, your collarbone goes round and it's on this side, you would tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, that is the simplest form of the thought field therapy. There is more to it.
Sure.
What I would, if I had a client, I would get them to rate their anxiety rate from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. And then we would run through that. Often, I had a client just the other day where 1 was enough. So that would finish that anxiety. But if it's deeper, then we would do it several times. And then other times we're tapping on the back of the hand and doing other things. But basically, that would be the points to use, just to give you some idea of the simplicity of it.
And it doesn't matter which side, or if you go here and go here?
It doesn't matter. It's I think it goes automatic that if you use one hand, you tend to use one side.
Okay.
But you could use both if you wish. You could use both. And also, if it's a child, you could actually act as a surrogate. You could put your hand on their knee, and so you're transferring the energies and work on yourself, so it would have an effect. But there are many great trainers out there with thought field therapy who would be able to take it to the next level.
So you just said something about children. Can you put a baby to sleep by doing that?
Put a baby to sleep. Well, do you know, I wish I could have had my grandson living with me for 4.5 months. No, I didn't.
Just calm him down a little bit. It's like, go to sleep, little baby.
Yeah. there's no easy answer to that one.
Curiosity, as an individual is tapping, where should they be mentally? Should they be making their mind a blank? Should they be thinking positive if they're anxious? What do you recommend?
Well, I just, first of all, recommend that they give me the problem. And the beauty of this also is they don't have to tell me what the problem is. They can tell me about the anxiety, but they don't have to go into detail about the issues around it. So I don't have to get all of that. And so I would then rate it from 1 to 10 and then get them to think about the problem, and then we'd start the tapping. Now, what happened to me the other day when it worked the first time for one lady, she said to me, "Oh, that's because I'm not thinking about it now." Well, that's quite a common thing for when it's worked. And I have spoken to her since, and the issue has worked. So, but it's then uncovering if there are any other layers to that situation, so we can just work through them. So by the time we've finished, often we've run through this about 10 times. So they know exactly what to do, and they have the sheet to take on with them. So it's very effective. It was devised by a psychologist in your country, Dr. Roger Callahan, who was a psychologist, and realised talking about the problems doesn't always end the problem. So he focused on this.
Now, I've seen individuals have a rubber band on their hand, and is that a form of tapping, or is that a psychological?
No, I believe that's a form of therapy. I think it's cognitive behaviour therapy or something of that. I may be totally wrong with that. I think it's almost a reminder. No, it isn't anything to do with the tapping.
I see.
Yeah, it's like if you have a headache and then you just somebody punches you in the arm. It's like, your head hurts? It's like, no, my arm hurts now.
And it takes it away from this.
So around you, I should never say I have a headache.
You want healed?
No.
We'll do some tapping.
You bring up some really good points about the healing process. There's a lot of individuals with a lot of good positive approaches, and we are in an ascension sphere, and many of us exhibit moving from one-dimensional plane up to a higher dimensional plane, but our physical body sometimes takes a little bit longer.
It kind of lags behind, and there's a disconnect. And there are certain times, I think, that it gets pushed forward. I think right now, September is one of those times. Am I correct?
You're correct, and we've just had another eclipse, which has made a huge difference. And people are beginning to have different symptoms, I'm hearing. I've got a list of them here. I mean, headaches, fatigue, aches and pains within the body, heart palpitations and arrhythmia is quite common. Memory recall, that's been a big one for me. Waking at night, just needing less sleep, not being able to focus. I mean, fatigue has been my personal thing. And when I'm in that state of fatigue, I can't read, I can't do anything. It is just going into that state of relaxation. And when you come out of it, I'm buzzing with energy. So the longer you fight it, the longer it's going to take. So it is a good idea just to go with it. I mean, clearly, if you're having problems with your heart or anything physical, it's still sense to go and see the doctor. I wouldn't say, look, just because this is it, or it's the Ascension.
Sure.
No, we need to actually make that point that people just need to take responsibility for their bodies, but to let them know that these things are happening to many people. And I don't know whether I should do this now, but I had been given a channeling on the Ascension within that. Do you think we could fit that in now?
Sure. But before we begin that, I want to also agree with you there are many fine physicians. There are many fine individuals that have our health. And it's just not one process. If we are feeling aches and pains, we have that responsibility, like you said, to go to our physician, our practitioner, nurse practitioner, and make sure that we're following some of those guidelines too. So I very much agree with you.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes, yeah, that's a really good thing. Just to give you a for instance of that, last year I had a problem with my hip, my left hip, and I believe it was something called a bursa, which was quite painful. So I went along to the doctor and asked his advice, and he recommended having an injection into the hip. So I said, right, okay. I was just relieved it wasn't anything else apart from that. So I said, give me a couple of weeks, and if I can't do it, then I will come back. So I came back and focused on my own healing for that, and end of problem. I never went back. But I use the doctor when necessary. I think it's important. They are amazing people trying to do the best for people. And
sure.
Sometimes we need their help.
Very much so. So I didn't mean to get away from that channeling. You were gonna.
No, that's absolutely fine. So we had a nice chat the other day just to get to know each other, and this came through when I left after we'd finished speaking. So a few things have happened since we spoke. So clearly it was meant to be. So this is following the latest eclipse. As we enter a new gateway, this is the point when everything changes, individually and collectively, and understanding self-empowerment, knowing and understanding who you are and what you are capable of. As you enter the fifth dimension, many are experiencing miracles in their lives, doors opening when once they were locked. You each hold a key to open these doors of your choice. Working from a place of love, allow yourself to shine and become the grandest version of yourself. Love is and always has been the key.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Loving yourself is one of a major step in doubting yourself, and
yes.
you know.
Yes, that is very true, and I think many of our spiritual mentors and guides and other individuals recognize when we're not our optimum positive attitudes, and they send gentle reminders.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. I mean, it's lovely. They're always beautiful messages, and they never take over our responsibilities. We still have to live our lives in the way that we choose, but there are nice guidances from them.
I think it's good, and I think you've brought it up before, maybe intention. To start your day, a lot of times I start out thinking, I love my life, I love what I do. And you don't want to get up in the morning, it's like, oh God, I wonder what's going to happen today. Oh crap, You don't want to start out. You don't want to start out on a bad foot, or the intention of.
That's true. That's true.
It's like bad luck.
Yeah.
It's like I have good luck. Good things are going to happen.
Yes.
That's a really good one. For me, if I have clients, my intention is that they will leave me with their problem solved, or that we've made a step forward with that. But my intention this morning, in England here, we have such beautiful weather. It was to have a really nice walk before this interview, and wow, it's like a miracle day today for us in England.
Yeah, we had a very nice sunrise this morning. I also saw the space station go over this morning.
Really?
I let the dogs out.
Oh, wonderful! Yes, wonderful. It's interesting because it obviously crosses over here as well, so
right.
It's fascinating from that point of view. I'm sorry to bring the weather into this. We English are renowned for speaking about the weather.
Well, unfortunately, movies and theaters and individuals always talk about the fog, the English cold, damp,
rain.
But that's not necessarily the case most of the time. Is that correct?
That's true.
Right. The
Yeah,
other
that's
10%
true.
of the time, it's pretty nice.
But we rejoice when the weather is like this. It's just perfect for this time of year.
Very good.
Yeah.
So channeling, is there you had mentioned a collective or a group of individuals that come in. Is there one dominant individual that you communicate with? Can you tell a little bit about the connection that you have with that channeling?
Yes, in the past I have channeled many. Archangel Michael in particular, he was one of my first. I can't remember when he came in actually, but then we've had Melchizedek and also Jesus. I've actually spoken to Source, God, Divine, however you would like to name that. And they're all such beautiful, powerful energies. And they would often come in when I was channeling with two others, so we were holding that energy. I can now bring them in myself.
Very good.
I have adapted the energy, or they have, I should say, have helped with the adaptation. I have to raise my vibration and they lower theirs. But we've come into this time now where it is so close, it's very easy to make that connection. And so we have that. But recently, over recent weeks, I brought in another collective. I haven't a name for them. They don't specifically like names because it takes away the energy and the focus of what you're actually listening to. And at the moment, it has been personal messages for myself and one other where we have been meeting together. My understanding is that more information is going to come through, and
Good.
they're preparing, setting out the ground rules for what's going to be happening. And interestingly, I've had a lot more colour coming in this week since we spoke. So there's obviously keys being exchanged here for Mike and Patrick, where something has been opened to another level of understanding with the channeling coming through now.
Very good.
Now, when you channel different beings, you get different feelings. Like, would certain ones be more emotionally overwhelming or give you a different feeling?
Yeah, in the past, that would be Jesus. I would just melt, absolutely overwhelmed, and learn very quickly just to ask him to step back and get to a point where it was really comfortable, and then we could have the conversation. The rest, actually, I don't really feel any different. I can tell by the words. There's the recent one that I channeled with my friend was very soft, very gentle, so we could tell it was a feminine energy. And if you ask a question of them, they would then go off and get somebody else who was actually more appropriate for as being a collective. They were able to bring in the one with the right response for that question. So it's from that point of view, I can tell.
Do you see these beings, or do you just feel them?
I just feel them. In the past, I've seen faces. If I close my eyes, I can often see faces, but I wouldn't say it's the guides that are coming in. It's just fleeting people passing by, perhaps, seeing an energy and thinking, how curious about us as we are about them.
Now, you said you think everyone can do that.
Yes.
Is there a certain mindset, or how do you start?
Well, I think you've got to have an intention that you want to do this. And I think usually the people that I've been teaching have been looking for the next step for themselves. So I've run small groups whereby you've got that collective energy to start off with. And then I've brought energies in. I tend to bring in the archangels while I'm doing this work. I've recently started to bring in the seraphim energy, which is extremely powerful. And I see 6 seraphims around the house creating a sacred place.
Oh, very good.
So with that, then meditation is a lot of this. But also I do other work with them, say drawing or something like that, and then handwriting. They might be inspired to write. Initially for me, I would get a sentence maybe said 3 times, so I knew there was somebody wanted to come through. But for starting, some have really amazed me. They've gone straight into the higher energies. Others are going into their higher self. I believe we have many aspects and we can actually tune into those, which I do for my therapies. I can actually tune into somebody who is very good at hypnotherapy, for instance, for the person that I'm working for. So it's very useful tool. But I do believe with the intention and with the right mindset then, because it does take time, it does take patience sometimes, and sometimes it's very quick for them to connect.
Now, I know, you think it would be an external thing. Are you listening out here, or are you listening on the inside of yourself?
Yeah, both actually. I seem to hear it here, and then when I really start to channel, it's definitely inside. And sometimes I can have a conversation with what is going on. Just an odd word, I will be asking for a little bit more insight into that, and then they will come out with it. And often they will say, "Oh, and Dee's just asked us." So we've got a melding of the minds here. It's a little bit like the Star Trek, isn't it? And what's going on there with that meld?
You wouldn't do that while you're driving, would you? It's like, hey.
No, but I do have. Last week I went travelling and I drove for quite a few hours, and I was getting ideas in my head. So we're not speaking, but I am getting the ideas in my head, because the beauty of our minds is when you drive, you don't think about it. You're in that mindset of you're so used to it, you're not even thinking. You must have driven somewhere and thought, how on earth did I get here? We're here already. Well, you've gone into a kind of trance. And that is what's happening with me when I'm driving. And interesting, if you need to get your foot on the brake or whatever, you're back in a second. They're not going to let you have an accident or, make it dangerous for yourself. So before I got to the final destination, I had all of this information coming through, some of which we've been talking about as to what to bring through on this interview day. So it's a collaboration. We're clearly working together.
Would you say that information is more into pictures? We think in pictures. I believe most of the time we don't think in words.
And that's how I communicate with my dogs a lot. I'll visualize them doing something and tell them, and I think they pick that up.
So, yeah, without doubt. Yeah, mine is words mainly. Mine is definitely words. But I'm noticing that it's almost like the law of attraction coming in here now. If I'm thinking about something, then it's happening very quickly now. It's almost like that's been picked up straight away and something comes in. It's magic. These are the miracles that are happening within the 5th dimension.
One of the things that I found when I'm in a meditative state, if I always want to make sure it's just not my rambling in my mind, so I've asked for some signs, and usually if I'm with a spiritual mentor, one of the signs is that the body tingles just for a little bit. Do you have that kind of physical sensation, or is there something that your spiritual mentors and guides give to you to sort of confirm it?
I've been thinking about this. I think for me it's a feeling of excitement. It's a feeling of high vibration, and I feel that's right. But having said that, I still always want confirmation. And one of the things I had been told, I had a reading a few years ago, that I would be working with ISIS within one of my meditations or within a workshop. So I'm driving along and I'm just saying in my head, could you please give me a sign that was correct information? Within 10 seconds, this van overtook me with ISIS water written on the side of it. That happens to me a lot.
Very good, very good.
And some people talk about, randomly looking at the clock and seeing like 444 or 222 or those sort of things.
That's right. There's all sorts of different ways. Just many people have many different ways of feeling, but I do think it's about my feeling as much as anything. That feeling of excitement, knowing that it's coming from a good place. Of course, you need to be when you're teaching the connecting with the channeling. It's to make sure that you're actually getting high vibration beings connecting.
Well, you had mentioned it earlier. It's like training the brain.
Yes.
Training the brain to understand with your attitudes and your feelings that there is something greater out there.
Yes.
Would you like to expand on that?
Right. So training the brain, I use mainly in my therapies, and we all have thousands of thoughts running through our brains every day. It's like a conveyor belt, and it's ones that you actually choose to pick up on, really. And if it's something negative, I would just say, acknowledge that thought and let it go. And say, when you're in training for this, I would say every half hour, just sit somewhere quiet. Think about what you've been thinking about for the last half hour. Was there anything in there that was negative to what you're actually trying to achieve in your life? And you can't do this with every thought because you've got thousands of them coming through. But you'll get the gist of actually what is happening. And a good thing to do is, if you have a good friend, your speech will give away often what anything that you may be feeling negative about. Say you were thinking about wanting good health, and then think, oh yes, but I can't have good health because. So you would need, sometimes it helps to have another person. Happens to me, we're human. We actually make these little slips and sometimes on a regular basis. But it's just catching yourself, really, and that's the training. That's where the training comes in, and where meditation is very, very useful, because as you manage to get your brain trained, then you can start going to that place of nothingness, the quantum, as they call it.
Mike, wouldn't you say that that's one of the reasons why we have the element of time? It slows down from one thought to the next, and we could sort of evaluate, is that positive or negative? I'm just curious if that element of time then is a good thing for us on the third dimension.
Oh, yes. Oh, without doubt, because imagine, I think they did this on The Secret. I think there was a brilliant demonstration of this. If you were thinking about an elephant, and then the elephant suddenly arrived in your room, that is a brilliant explanation for, you need some time lapse in between that.
Yeah, we need to shore up the flooring.
Yeah.
But that is a good analogy, that if we thought right away and then it appeared, we really wouldn't be able to evaluate personally, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, I think we need to evaluate. We need to appreciate what we're doing, and that's what we are. We're these sentient beings. That we need to bring that in.
Now, you were talking about raising your vibration and ascension and different things. What do you think about diet and raising vibrations and stuff like that?
Well, I think you've got to listen to your own body. I went quite a few years as a vegetarian. I am now not a vegetarian. I think if your guidance, if you listen to the guidance on that, I haven't had sugar now for 10 days, and have no inclination to have sugar. It's very strange to me, because there I was, 2 weeks ago, eating biscuits and cakes and things like that, and for some reason my vibration is changing to the fact that no sugar is needed. So I think it's a personal thing. I think a clean diet obviously is very good if we can get the vegetables and the fruit, which are organic. That is good. But I think we can also manage on the other foods, which a lot of people actually have intolerances. They develop intolerances to certain foods, which again is all part of their personal process of ascension.
It's
So
interesting.
I think there's a difference between listening to your body and your, I don't know, wants maybe. You know, like I could go to, like, let's have a pound of bacon. That's probably not the best thing in the world.
I
Cut it down to a half
You can
a
tell
pound.
an addiction as opposed to, what's something that's good for you, really.
Right.
You have that knowing, don't you? You just have that knowing.
It's my understanding that pituitary gland is supposed to be viable and flexible, and that's inside, and that really connects to the higher aspects. And sugar tends to crystallize. Processed sugar tends to crystallize the pituitary gland, and so it helps to cut down. Now, what does bacon do? Bacon is good.
Yeah, that's true. But also fluoride as well, that crystallizes the pineal gland. So, there's quite a few things to try and avoid for that. But
Yeah, I've heard that sometimes that sugar is worse for you than salt. It was weird that when me and my wife both got sick, we just kind of craved salt for some reason.
Really? Huh.
yeah. But I mean, there are different kinds of salts that you can have, aren't there?
Right.
Land salts, sea salts. But the commercialized salt, it really isn't good for you.
Just out of curiosity, you're writing your novel, and it soon will come out. So when you have your novel completed, we would love to have you back on. It's about a spiritual culture. Tell us a little bit about the novel you're writing.
I can't give you too much information without giving it away, really. But it's a story with a lot of spiritual underlying with that, and when the book comes out, you'll understand why I can't really mention too much about it, because it's holding a unique experience.
Ah, very good.
Is it in a different time period or not?
Yeah, I think it's yes, November, end of November. It should be finished. I started to edit it, but I've been rewriting because I started it in 2008. But I've changed since then, and my outlook on things and things that I've been reading have kind of come into it. So it's just having a tweak here and there. But it's actually a very funny book. It's an amusing book, and there are a lot of self-help books out there which are absolutely brilliant. And I felt this one needed to be funny, have some humour in it, but also the message is always the same.
So is this like a story of one person, and that type of thing?
If I say a person, it's an inanimate object that I'm writing about.
Okay.
Right, but it is telling a story.
Okay.
If I say it's a little bit...
So, self-help books are more instructional and they talk about things.
That's it, yes. No, but if I say people, the people that are involved in the book are learning from themselves with other things. I'm sorry, I'm very vague about it.
Yeah,
well,
that's fine.
I would like to pre-order a book from you.
Well, bless you.
So I'm looking forward to that. You also have workshops. Workshops are basically helping to self-empower individuals.
Yes. Again, using my tools of not so much the hypnotherapy in that, but the NLP and thought field therapy, because often people have these anxieties, and we can move them out even from maybe starting up a business or something like that. Then we can use that tool to help. My other workshops are training the channeling, And I also do one for the law of attraction as well, so inviting everything in. But my workshops are very spiritual based, so we're using all the laws of the universe within the work that I do.
Tell us a little bit about the law of attraction. What's your definition, and what you have noticed in life?
Right. Some of the things, for me, I think them and they arrive. For instance, this morning I went down to the beach and I'm thinking about increasing my business. I'm thinking about getting some more advertising in, and let's see how that works. So I had that in my mind this morning. I went down and had a coffee, and I met a neighbour of mine down there. We sat chatting, and the outcome of that was he does charity work, and there is a place where they have people going and do talks. So I'm going to be going along there and doing a talk. So that's instant. I think for some things, you make a list out. We've heard all of this before. You make a list, you have the intention, but then you have to put some action into whatever you're looking for as well. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's instant. But it's keeping, for myself, once I've made up my mind what I want and sent it off to the universe, I'm trusting that that's going to come back. So I don't really think about it anymore. I don't keep pushing and pushing at it. And whatever it is will come. I've created several holidays where people have just given me a holiday, things like that. So I know it works for me, but I think it's also an individual thing. You've got to get really your belief system working in this.
That is true.
If you're going for millions, do you really want the millions? Is that going to have some odd effect with you? And so lots of people who have won the lottery have not been any happier for that. So you have to be really careful what you actually put your mind to bringing in.
Well, I think you experienced that with buying your river house.
Yes. My wife and I had always wanted a house along the river. And so we started thinking about what it would be like. We envisioned ourselves being on the river. We envisioned the warmth, having a loving experience, etc. And one day we were sort of sitting there going, well, it looks like we can write this off because we aren't going to get the river house. And within 2 months, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it's not a matter of just sitting down saying, I want this or I want
it's
that.
It's going to fall in your lap.
Right.
Yeah.
For a long time, I would say, I want patience and I want it now.
Oh, no. That was one thing that I've been told, that you don't pray for patience or any other things like that, because then they will test you and test you and test you until you have patience.
Yes.
I don't want any more patience.
Just keep saying, I am patient.
Right.
Well, but it does come up with an interesting point that you're making, Mike, and that's with money. Money has a lot of energy surrounding it. And when individuals say, I need more money, first of all, they're saying, I need it, therefore, I'm not going to have it, because
it's the mindset of not having.
That's right. That they will need more and more money. They'll need it.
Yeah, I heard one person say, when you go to the mailbox and you get bills you think, oh my God, I don't have enough money for the bills. Go, I have plenty.
Yes.
I have an overabundance. And these bills are not a problem.
And as a matter of fact, I'm going to send them an extra $1 on the credit that we owe, because I just want to show to them I have more money than they think I have.
Right.
And sometimes that sort of helps us to change our mindset. Wouldn't you? What's your thoughts, Dee?
Oh, I agree. When I get a bill through the door, I just say, oh, thank you, because I've got enough to pay for that. And I had a very good teacher called Stuart Wilde. He's since passed. And he wrote a book, The Trick to Money is Having Some.
Yes.
And yes, and what he also says is the universe has a sense of humour at times and will send you pennies. So if you have coins on the floor, you have to acknowledge them, pick them up. And, you get the flow going in. And so I was starting off with pennies and finding £20 and all sorts of money on the floor. Mm-hmm. So it is that attitude, really. And giving, I think that's another thing, really. If you can give, this seems to also cause a return.
Yes. Speaking of pennies, Mike, in our area here, some people believe that if you see a penny that
tails
up, that's bad luck.
Right, don't pick it up.
I think I've picked up about $2 or $3 worth of pennies because other individuals.
Right, won't touch those.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, isn't it? The belief system of that you're creating. Yeah, it's don't walk under a ladder. All of those things.
Well, that sort of leads us into tarot readings. Some individuals look at tarot cards as the devil. Yeah. Other individuals look at it as
witchcraft or something.
Yes, yeah.
Or you're making spells or something.
Yeah. And other individuals see, oh, look, I'm going to win a lottery because I got this card. What's your feelings about tarot cards?
Well, I do tarot cards. I have to admit that when they first crossed my path, I didn't want anything to do with them. I don't know if I've had them in a past life and been in trouble with that. I tend to use. I've got some beautiful cards called the Psychic Universal cards, and they're just a prop, a link to get you into the energies of the reading.
That's a good point.
That's all they are. But people expect you to have something like cards if you're doing the reading. Where you can tune into a photograph, you can tune into them, but always with these things, they've got to be in the right hands with the right heart. Otherwise, mischief can be set about.
And not necessarily to take them literally. For instance,
no, the death card is not meaning death.
Death, right?
It means big change.
Definite guide. Yeah, and sometimes people actually need counselling with them. I can think of several instances where they were wanting me to give them some information so they could go to another person and say, well, this psychic said that. We're not going to fall into that trap because if I see anything that is a little bit negative, I would then get my other hat on and say, like, if you start to focus on this, and
that's a good point.
Then you can actually change that.
Which you mentioned the word psychic. Are you a psychic reader?
I am a psychic reader.
And in a psychic reader, when you sit down with an individual, what do you feel? How do you sense when you're sitting down with somebody brand new that you've never met before?
It's a strange thing, really. It doesn't take long for me to actually tune into their energy. Get talking once you've got the voice moving, and I can see mannerisms and I can see the energies, or not see the energies, I feel the energies, and then things just come to me from that, because remember, I've set the intention before they come that I want to give the best reading for them with the highest intention. So it's already kind of started before they've even sat down. I sometimes know what I'm going to say even before they get in.
And I would imagine that there's been a lot of media talking about psychics will bring in your dead grandmother, and that's not necessarily the case of a psychic reader.
No. I have had that experience, in fact, because I also do a little bit of medium work. I don't actually focus on the mediumship work, but I have had, what they did to me this time was show me a lady in a pinafore dress. That's something that goes over your dress while you're doing work. So of a certain age, this lady would have been. And I described the print, to this lady, and it turned out to be her mother who'd recently passed.
Huh.
So it's interesting how those things can come in, then lead you on to other things. But it's an opener, really, an opener. But I pass on what I get, and then hopefully it will have some effect on the
So,
outcome.
now that brings up a question for me. What would be, because you made the distinction of being mediumship, what's the difference between channeling and being a medium?
Right. Well, the channeling I will talk about first because that comes so easy to me. That's kind of instant. It's almost like you talk about tuning into those vibrations. Well, for me, it's just a switch now, so I'm there. Whereas the mediumship is spirit trying to come through of a lesser vibration. I'm not going to say higher or lower, but a lesser vibration. And with that, it sometimes takes the form of the lady in the dress. Or one day I had somebody show me a book. It was a cover that I had to then work out what that was. It was a slim leather fold-over cover, and it turned out to be when you go into a restaurant and they bring the bill, it was for that. It made no sense to me whatsoever, but as soon as I finally worked out what it was, and it takes me a while, I've got to work out what that energy is trying to tell me. So, and they don't always make it easy. They make me work for that. I really have to work for that.
So it's more interpretation when you do that?
Is it what, sorry?
More interpretation rather than words and speech?
Yeah, that's the interpretation. I'm trying to work out what could be this slim, and eventually I say, oh my goodness, it's holding that. And then your client is just sitting there smiling because it was really relevant to something that was happening in her life, and she went away really happy. It helped her make a decision. I didn't say anything apart from interpreting what I was seeing. So it's strange, that's the difference.
Do you find that working with women or men are easier or harder?
Within the tarot?
Or with,
or in general?
or just working with individuals in their self-help?
Oh, right, in my self-help. I find them both easy. I like them both. I have more women because more women seem to be looking and searching still at the moment, but more men are coming in. Yeah, they're both great.
Okay, good. We only have a few minutes, etc., and you have a whole list of things that you wanted to discuss. What are we missing, and what would you like to expound upon?
Oh, right. A big one for me is gratitude. So I'd just like to talk about the gratitude, really. Intention is great. We've done that one, but the gratitude. If you think about 5 things within a day that you can be grateful for, you could do 10, 20, whatever, but if we start off with 5. So just before you're going off to sleep, give thanks. Thank you for my lovely bed. Thank you for my day. Thank you for meeting so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So you've done those 5 and you've gone off to sleep. After about 7 days, you can't think about what you're going to be grateful for. So you start to look while you're out and about in your day. Or like today, I'll be like, thank you for the sunshine today. And you're looking for things to be grateful for when you go back, with your list of 5, which takes your attention to more gratitude. And I just think that is a wonderful vibration to be working on, to be grateful. And I know some people are ill, and it's very difficult. We're talking about in this moment where we're all fit and healthy, but there are some people who are not. And it is difficult for them to actually be saying, thank you for my good health. But in actual fact, if you say, thank you for my good health, it's switching the brain into thinking about good health rather than, oh,
that's a good point. Good
yeah,
point.
it's really important. And I had the flu earlier in the year, and I just kept doing that over and over again. And I really do believe that works. So gratitude is high on my list.
So I just had a friend pass. He was 48. So what do you tell people in those grieving moments to give some comfort or make sense of the situation?
Again, that's individual to each person, isn't it, really? I would be listening to them. And if there was some advice I could offer them, then I could do that. But it's their moment, really, of acceptance. I could offer all of my understanding with what I believe happens. But I think the important thing is let them speak, let them come to some understanding themselves. And actually, we talked about my energies earlier, and I do believe that's where my energies come in. I do think that's where it's working on those levels. I had a bereavement myself last week, and there's a funeral on Monday, and I got to speak to the daughter of the lady, and like you, I was thinking, well, what can I say? And actually, I didn't say anything. She was just listening, and we may have an opportunity to speak in the future, but I think it's back to the healing. I think the voice has a healing. I think the words, obviously, but sometimes if it's too early days, people wouldn't be ready. If they came to me and asked me questions about what is your understanding of what happens, then obviously I would come out with my understanding of that.
Yeah, I know. I just lost a very close dog of mine in June, and you know, me and him were really close, and you know, people offered all kinds of, you know, sorry, condolences, and all this kind of. None of it makes a difference. You know, it's appreciated, and you just have to go through the process.
You do, yes. It's very difficult, and especially with pets. Yes, lost too. They break your hearts.
Right, they're just such pure souls. I
They
think.
are, yeah, they are. But probably around you still.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, I've gotten several confirmations that he's still around.
Yeah.
There's these little white seed puffs that come around at different times. I know that's him telling me that he's here.
Oh, that's comforting.
Dee, how can viewers, listeners to this program, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I have a website, www.deetaylor-mason.com.
Okay, pretty much similar to what's on the screen there. No spaces.
I can't see that on the screen, but...
Oh, okay. It's D, D-E-E, Taylor...
D-E-E, Taylor-Mason.com.
.com.
I'll put the links down below in the description.
Good.
That's lovely, thank you. And on the website it shows a listing of all the therapies that I do, and I'm available for healings. I do healings over Skype, also the tarot readings, and there will be some workshops going up there very soon.
Now, the workshops, are those something that you can go by Skype, or is that an in-person thing?
I can do in person, I can do on Skype. I can do both of those. Yeah, I've had quite a few clients from America. So
very good.
just getting the time zones right.
Right.
Very early for you.
You're telling me. You get up early this morning.
Well, you know, it's you are 5 hours ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're in the future.
Yeah, that's right.
We are in the future. Your future reality.
And unless we went the other way around the world, then they'd be in the past.
Yeah.
Dee, we have about a minute left. Any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share to the listening audience?
Well, you know, for your listeners, I would just like to say, we chose to be here at this time. I understand there was a fight to be here at this time because there were so many of us wanted to be here and have this experience. We knew what was going to happen. Our parents knew what was going to happen by giving us the birth that we have. But we forgot. And in that forgetting, we're trying now to remember. So hopefully, some of these words that we've exchanged today may have hit inside and opened up to asking more questions.
Dee, Mike and I are very appreciative we've been looking forward to talking with you, and we want to thank you very much for your time, your energy, your words of wisdom, and we hope you'll come back on the program in the very near future.
Thank you so much. It's been a delight to speak to you both.
Okay. And thanks to our audience. Thanks for watching, and check her out in the links down below. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.